May the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Last week we heard Jesus calling the first of his disciples out of their lives and livelihoods. James and John, Simon and Andrew left their boats and their families and their careers to follow Jesus. Where would they go? Jesus never really said, but go they went. It doesn't take Mark long to set the stage for how we are to perceive Jesus. Jesus has that intangible, that indefinable quality that draws you in. Some might call this charisma, but the gospel calls it authority. Jesus, with nothing but a passing word, is able to change the course of these men's lives. But this is only the beginning of what Jesus is up to. In today's lesson, Jesus goes to Capernaum and begins to teach in the synagogue. He doesn't wait for an invitation, nor does he ask for permission. It is just like when he called out the fishing brothers. He had the gall and the nerve to enter the scene and take charge. And people noticed. They noticed that there was an air of authority that no one needed to give him, but that he wore as a mantle around his shoulders. The idea of authority in Mark's gospel is a thread that runs throughout the whole book. And what we find today in relation to Jesus' authority is that it is an authority of both the material and spiritual realm. Jesus has the ability to command the presence of the room, along with the ability to command the spiritual forces that seek to reside in the depths of humanity. Not only does Jesus have the authority to extract meaning out of the Torah, but he also has the authority to extract evil inclinations out of our lives. I'm finding that part of life is learning how to reconcile what is true with what has power. For example, truth is injustice exists in our world. Power is that which sustains injustice or that which transforms injustice. Truth, love exists in our world. Power, that which makes love come alive. Truth, pain is real. Power, that which inflicts pain or relieves pain. Today we find in Jesus' authority one who reconciles truth and power in his very being and with his very words. And after all, isn't that the gist of authority? One who has the credentials to wield power? Even the unclean spirit recognizes that Jesus is both truth and power in human form. But what does all this mean to us and to our daily lives? After all, many of us have yielded the authority of our lives to spiritual powers that would have us say, "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth?" Spiritual powers such as greed, addiction, envy, control. We all know only too well our own creatures of comfort. Creatures that in truth exist, yet have only the power that we afford to them. Perhaps you've seen this film. Disney made a film a couple years ago called Moana. And if you haven't seen this film, I highly recommend it. But in this film, there's this mythic character called Tafiti. And Tafiti is known for bringing life to the islands of the South Pacific. And it is the very heart of Tafiti that is said to have the power to create life. Yet when Tafiti's heart is stolen and then lost in the depths of the ocean, a dark force begins to take over the islands. This dark force brings death and decay. But also along with this dark force is the mythic character Taka, the lava monster. Taka seeks to destroy those in the film who are in possession of Tafiti's heart. Then we hear about the main character, Moana. She has been selected by the ocean to be the one to restore Tefiti's heart. But what she learns in the process is that she must confront Taka, the lava monster. What she ultimately discovers is that defeating Taka requires not the power of force or of sheer will, but the power of compassion. You see, it is only Moana in the film who is able to see Taka for who he is. Taka and Tefiti are one and the same. The force of life and the force of death are but only separated by a missing heart. So Moana and the authority given to her walks up to Taka with love and courage and places the heart back into the center of the monster. And in the next moment, what was once dark and fiery becomes green and filled with life. The authority of truth and power resided within the one who could see life in the midst of death. And she did not just see it, but she acted on it. In our lives, Jesus is the one who has always seen life in the midst of death. In the synagogue that day, Jesus saw the man broken by the unclean spirit. But that was not all that he saw. He saw the life at the heart of the man, and he restored it. Jesus comes with the authority of God's love, the truth of the human experience, and the power of one who transforms death into life. So in confronting the truth of our lives, we may be tempted to respond to Jesus with the same question. What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? But in the truth of who Jesus is, he calls us to that deeper place, that place in our hearts. But he begins by saying, be silent. And in that silence, he can whisper to us, as he does in Matthew's gospel, come unto me, all you who travail and are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest for your souls. Jesus, with his authority, wants nothing more than to restore the heart of God that is within us all. For we were made to dwell in him, and he in us. As we say our farewells this Sunday, the prayer that I offer is that the heart of God will rest within us all, and that we will find the power to walk in his love. Amen.